Well, I found out that I was pregnant with my first son, and we were living in Coquitlam. So we wanted to plant really firm roots in a community. So we really took a while to study the communities that we thought would be ideal for our family, and we settled on Maple Ridge. So we hired a realtor, and interestingly, that was former curler Kelly Law. And I told her that in my mind, I had a yellow house with a black door. And the next day, she brought me to a yellow house with a black door, which was the house that we first purchased in Hammond.
Well, when my mom first got sick, I came home in 1969. And I was here just a few months, and I'd bought 3 different companies that were bankrupt at the time and put them back on their feet. And I had a good run, about 5 years, and ended up with I don't know, maybe a dozen rental houses and about 5 or 6 businesses. And during that time, I coached Little League Baseball, and we got involved Big Brothers and a lot of other things that in the community. And I think about 1975, I actually felt Maple Ridge was a little small, so I went to Vancouver for a while and worked all throughout the province of BC and Alberta, doing rescues on companies that were in trouble. But at the end of the day, especially after I fell in love in 1976, I brought my wife back to my hometown and raised our children. That led to starting Mapleridge School and all kinds of good things. And I love Maple Ridge. I probably will die here in Maple Ridge, and I don't think you could do better.
Oh, gee, I was practicing in Vancouver, and I had a home in Sunshine Hills in North Delta, and we were doing the long commute while we were starting a family. This was in 1981, and we wanted to get out of the rat race. My wife and I are both born in Vancouver, and Maple Ridge was where we landed.
Well, actually, funny story, my parents, surprising. 1973, they were building a house in one of the first subdivisions off Greenwell, and it was such a new subdivision. It didn't have stormwater management or streetlights, which, you know, the stormwater management that was a little dodgy, but no streetlights was actually kind of nice. You could see the stars at night. That was basically what brought me here. And I'll never forget the day I moved in. We moved all the furniture in, kind of set up a little bit. And then I had a motorcycle at the time, and I drove around Maple Ridge for 4 hours. And I knew after that 4 hours that I'd found the place I could live in and spend the rest of my life. So it was an interesting day.
I came to Maple Ridge because I'm a 6th generation resident, and when I wasn't yet thought of, my family needed to move up north for work, and 2 days after I graduated, I moved back. I absolutely loved coming to Maple Ridge as a child to visit family, and my favorite thing about Maple Ridge is that it's a big place. Like, we have a large land mass, and we are surrounded by the Lower Mainland, but we are a small town in personality, and it's a small town feel, and the people are what I love most.
My parents moved here before I was born. We moved into a little brick-faced house right on Duty Trunk Road, as it was a safe and affordable place to raise a family. And I've grown up here. I've lived here my whole life, and I'll hopefully raise a family here myself.
I actually moved from Surrey to Maple Ridge with my family when I was 7, and stayed here ever since. Just loved it.
You know, I have a number of role models over the course of my life. My dad inspired me, I would say, into post-secondary education. My grandmother was a real source of inspiration and taught me many things over the course of my life. How to cook, even though I don't cook that often, how to manage money. And my mom, who raised us as a single mom and didn't really have much, but made it so that we never really felt that we didn't have much, and made it so that we never felt that opportunities were not equally open to us as our friends who had much more than us. So a lot of members of my family are big inspirations to me.
Who inspires me are not only my own children, but all of our children. In everything that I do, it's for future generations.
Who inspires me? There's a lot of people have inspired me over the years. I can think of some here that were mayors. Norm Jacobson for sure. But I guess Jimmy Pattison maybe had a lot to do with the way I feel and the way I do business. Millen Illich was a great friend, and yeah, I'm inspired by people who actually do, not the ones that want to hold me.
Inspires me in historic figures. Winston Churchill has always been a real inspiration. Many people, I love to read famous quotes from different people. So that's the one that comes top of mind. Certainly Nelson Mandela was tremendously inspirational. Those would be two that come to mind.
The carpenter, the plumber, the framer who's up before dawn every day to provide a better life for their family. The mom who's working 3 jobs. The dad who's doing lawns on the weekend. That's why I got into public life, and those are the people that inspire me every day.
I'm fortunate enough that before getting involved in politics, when I started off volunteering, I had a lot of really good mentors, and I got to see a lot of people in politics. Michael Sater, Linda King. I can think of a few people that I saw over the years that I thought made some really good decisions and were very open and honest and just did a great job as leaders in the public eye. And so I found them quite inspiring, and I really looked up and hoped that at some point, if I was to go into public office, I would be at their level, that I could be as accountable as they were, and just everything they did. I was very impressed with the way they worked. And another very special group of people that really inspires me is actually a team called Pinnacle Pursuits. And it's a company I work for in Maple Ridge, but they just have a really incredible group of people that have a real zest for life. And in everything they do, they just try to encourage people to love themselves, to be happy, to go out there, to be adventurous. And I find that really inspiring.
Oh, there's people like Stephen Lewis, Tommy Douglas, my father, he was a very upstanding kind of guy. And, my wife, she inspires me all the time. I see how she's dealt with adversity. I've been a lucky man all my life, but my wife not so much, and she's just watching her deal with adversity is really telling. There's a bunch of other people that inspire me too, but the list is long and the time is short.
When things get tough at the end of the day, I think you dig deep into your why you got into this, who you're doing this for, and know that if you're basing your decisions on principle, that you're going to be doing the right thing.
Yeah. I usually go visit my wife, Mary, and if it needs a larger charge than that, I'm usually off to Maui.
I do it on a regular basis before things get tough. I have a tree. It's a surprise to most folks, but I have a tree at the back of the property, an old cedar, that I have a table and chair set up. I'll go back there and just give myself some time and think about whatever issue is bothering me. And I usually come out of it with a resolve around the issue and confirmation of a difficult decision is really important for me, because you got to go back to your well and you got to keep it full so that you got to have something to take out of it when you need it. So for me, it's really important. I do it very regularly. And it's not a long process for me. It can take half an hour. My backyard and my garden, basically.
When I need to recharge and refocus, I love to spend time on our trail network. We have such a variety, and I also love spending time at the dikes. The views are just gorgeous.
If I have time, I try to do something fun. I love zip lining, and I like to go out and go rock climbing. If I had time, I'd go bungee jumping. Anything fun and adventurous. And if I'm not able to fit that into my schedule, I definitely fall back on music. Just playing some good tunes in my car, singing along. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be a great singer. Just anything to relax and move to the music.
If I have a couple of days, I have a little cabin in the bush outside of Kamloops that I'm still building, and I was there last weekend, and that's my place to get away from it all. I have no electricity, no plumbing, and my wife refuses to go there, but it's where I can go and get away.
Tofino. So, you know, my husband and I, Steve, got married on the beach, Chesterman Beach in Tofino. So usually if we're escaping from the mainland, that's our destination, is the Wickinninish. So that's a pretty special place for our family. We go there about once a year if we can, and we write in the sand. So we have a lot of photographs over the years that the kids have been growing up of writing in the sand. So I have, you know, writing in the sand from when I was pregnant with Ben, and writing in the sand during years of Ben's life. And, you know, now we're starting to write in the sand for the years of Will's life. So that destination is a special place for our family.
I used to do a lot of work for Country Fest. I'm currently helping the Golden Ears Go-Go's a lot, who are grandmothers, helping grandmothers. I'm the grandother. It's a great organization through the Stephen Lewis Foundation, and I do a lot with their plant sales locally. And I also do a lot for Ghost Ridge. I absolutely love horror movies, and I love working for Ghost Ridge because we get to build the sets and act in the sets, and it's a lot of fun.
I absolutely love to volunteer, so you would likely find me in many different places, but one place you will always find me is volunteering annually for the Christmas Haven that's put on at the Act, and that's a dinner for the community on Christmas Eve, so nobody has to be alone, that there's a place for everybody to be on Christmas Eve.
Well, right now, you know, we're involved in the homelessness task force, so my efforts in terms of community volunteerism will really, over the next couple of years, focus there. But I'm also very active in my kids' schools, so I'd like to have more time to devote to the PAC, but I have been on the PAC in recent years, so that's also pretty important to me.
Volunteering, that's something I've done a lot of as a board member. I chaired and directed the Vistas Run to raise money for hospice for 5 years. Because of the time commitments of council, I'm not a volunteer on any boards right now, but I'll be volunteering at the Pancake Breakfast in about a week to help serve that. So just catch as can now, but it's something I've had a lot more time for in the past.
But I do get involved with a lot of things in the community on a daily basis. I'm always at the food bank, or I'm always working on the streets, and I'm always now hanging around the council, looking at the council hall, at a city hall, trying to figure out what we can do now.
I was on the board of the Friends in Need Food Bank for 10 years. It's a charity that deals, you know, a third of their clients are seniors, a third of their clients are single moms. I've left the board now, but it's still where I love to spend my time giving a hand.
Well, I just volunteered for our artist in residence play/song called Water Body, and that I'll show up for any time. I usually like things. When I wasn't elected the previous 3 years, I was active with the Heritage Commission as its chair, and I also got involved with the Farmers Market Board. I think that those two things, I think, are related in some ways. You got to know your past, and you got to recognize it, and you got to communicate it well to the citizens in order to create a valid future. And part of that future to me is healthy food. And I think people really like that local component. So that's, they'll always have my love and attention. There's no doubt about it.
Big Feast has the best spiced pecans. You'll always find those in my home.
What you would find is some jars of rocks that both of my kids have collected from every corner of this community. So, you know, we needed something to do with these rocks because every adventure we would go on, every lake we would go to, every park we would go to, even when we go to Langley Farm Market where there's rocks around the planters, our kids collect rocks. So, you know, Ben has given up on rock collecting the last couple of years, but our little guy Will, he's really over the years collected a lot of rocks too. So we have 2 kid rock jars, and I would say that those are pretty meaningful to us.
Well, my wife is a fabulous artist, and I'm a photographer. So you'll find lots of art of both our backyard, our surrounding, our sister city, Pitt Meadows, the hills and mountains, the Golden Ears. There's always lots of art around my home, and it's something that is a bit of a touchstone for me. I just love beauty.
At my house, I've got this beautiful wooden box. It's actually locally sourced, it's handmade, and it was made by a gentleman named Phil Cooper for the current and former councillors, and it's just this gorgeous, gorgeous box. And I just love it. It just kind of sits in the corner, and it's just this beautiful little piece of Maple Ridge in my apartment.
My house is probably a collage and cornucopia of Maple Ridge things and events, and I've got lots of Dale Sharp paintings. I've got numbers of paintings from our girls, the 7 that have been painting forever. All my furniture comes from Fuller Watson's or Haney Sewing and Sound. If you go through my house, you can see the merchants in our town. We do 95% of our shopping in Maple Ridge, and it's part of being part of the community. And yeah, my house represents Maple Ridge.
Things you will definitely find in our fridge, things that are from local Maple Ridge grown, from berries to cheeses, etc. But and we also have several pieces of art that we picked up at different, usually at charitable events. I'm the guy who pays $300 for the thing that's worth $50.
I have a beautiful blown up picture of the Golden Ears Mountains in my home that was taken by a local photographer.